Top of the morning, Dan and Amy. As I've often said, reality is becoming increasingly difficult to parody. It's another problem why it's difficult to do comedy because of the intolerance of those on the left in control of so many elite institutions, cultural institutions that don't like to be made fun of, wants to make sure make sure nobody other than white Christians are offended. But just generally speaking, it's just difficult to discern real reporting from parody, even with the Babylon Bee. For example, the Babylon Bee, I enjoy as a satire site, but then on occasion, you can't tell if they're doing straight reporting. Let me give you an example.
Okay.
They did a story recently, woman who's good at driving wondering if she might be transgender. And I think, well, that's just straight reporting, isn't it?
No, come on.
For more on this, there's a new book out from the geniuses at the Babylon Bee. Joel Berry joins us now. He's the managing editor of the Babylon Bee. The new book, Babylon Bee's Guide to Wokeness. Joel, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, how'd you come up with the cover there? I'm looking at it right now. It's a great design.
Well, yeah, our creative director, Ethan Nicole, did a great job with it. We really... The only directive we gave him was to try to make the cover look as woke as possible. Just throw everything in there. We want to see the pink hair, the rainbow flag, the Che Guevara T-shirt, and he did a good job.
Now, I'm sorry, we should have started the conversation properly. The pronouns that you would like to be identified with.
Excuse me, Dan.
Joel.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. I suppose he, him. That's what I'm going with now, although that may change tomorrow. We'll see.
All right. Well, now, am I right that a woman who's good at driving, wondering if she might be transgender, that was just a human interest story. That was not satire. So this was great. This interview that your editor-in-chief gave to The Atlantic, which apparently is trying to compete with the Babylon Bee in the area of satire. The interviewer, Emma Green, last month asked Kyle Mann, your editor-in-chief, about the story claiming that Democrats called for the American flag to be flown at half-staff when the Iranian general Qasem Soleimani was killed in a drone strike. She didn't understand what you were doing there.
Yeah. It's It is funny because a lot of times the left will supply a bit of a second punchline to our jokes. It can make it that much funnier when they don't get it. And in one sense, it is sad because we're living in two different worlds, two different worldviews, and two different realities. Essentially, we're getting our information in different places, and so sometimes we'll tell a joke, and the people who are in more of a leftist bubble don't even really have the underlying assumptions, worldview, or premise to understand what the joke is. I don't know if that was the case with her, but it does seem to happen a lot.
And how have you all managed to avoid the big tech censors and not be trumped when it comes to social media?
Well, we haven't. They have throttled us quite a bit, especially starting with the 2020 election. Our traffic used to come around 90% from Facebook. At some point during the election, President Trump retweeted one of our articles, and a few days later, our Facebook traffic all but disappeared. Someone flipped a switch somewhere, and it was gone. So most of our traffic now comes organically from people just coming directly to our website, and we love it that way. We have a subscriber model now, and we encourage people to do that. Don't rely on big tech to show you what they think you should see. Come straight to us.
So, Joel, among the woke, who provides you with the most comedic content, excuse me.
Yeah, well, it's there's a lot of content. I think that's the easy part of our job is that there's so much low-hanging fruit out there for us to satirize. I think the hard part of our job is making it more ridiculous than it already is. You know,
Exactly.
satire, in a sense, is exaggerating reality, and sometimes it's just it's so insane you can't exaggerate it anymore. But you know, we have some old standby targets that we like to. Sometimes we get criticized for making fun of too much. You know, we love AOC. She's one of our friends. She gives us plenty of material, and you know. But there's every day there's new stuff going on.
And the cultural stuff too, just getting beyond politics. You know, it seems to me you guys have occupied a space that used to be occupied almost exclusively by the Onion. But is my impression right that the Onion started to go to a place where, you know, sort of like the late night talk shows where they would only parody the center right, they would leave the left untouched?
Yeah, I think it seemed to happen. You know, when Trump was elected, I think a lot of comedians almost got this attitude that this has become such an emergency that we need to drop all our, you know, pretense of being comedians and just go full bore to try to get this guy out. That became their number one mission, and comedy kind of was thrown by the wayside. I think to some extent that did happen to the Onion a little bit. You know, and the left controls our culture and our institutions right now, and our media. I think, you know, when they're in control and their worldview and ideology reigns supreme, they're very sensitive to having that be made fun of. You know, and so I think whereas comedians in the 90s, the 80s, they may have been on the outside, kind of skewering the Christian moral majority. You know, Christians are now kind of on the outside, and we're the rebels, skewering what has become the mainstream woke culture that we see all around us.
Now, the Bee did another important story for a subset of American parents, and wonder if you could provide some insights here, some recommendations. The story was liberal parent trying to figure out how to cheer for his son Brandon. So how do parents with kids with boys named Brandon, or girls, I guess, how do they cheer for their sons and daughters at games if the name is Brandon?
Well, you know, you have to be creative. You know, say something like, you know, make haste, Brandon, or, you know,
let's go B.
Parental support, Brandon. It can be a challenge. I feel for all the parents of Brandons out there.
I know that's going to be hard. Never thought about that before. So how does the Babylon Bee Guide to Wokeness provide a sense of hope with your humor?
Yeah, you know, that's one thing that we are really try to keep in front of us all the time. I think as Christians and conservatives, it's easy to feel frustration and despair, feeling like the world's kind of crumbling all around us, and wring our hands about it. But we need to laugh, you know, and in addition to that, we need to always remember that we're citizens of God's kingdom, and His kingdom will never be overthrown. And come what may in this country, in our culture, we always have that hope. And so there can be, even while we're skewering the crazy things going on, there can be joy and hope in our satire, and we hope that comes across.
All right. The book is The Babylon Bee's Guide to Wokeness. He is Joel Berry, the managing editor of the Babylon Bee. Go subscribe to the Babylon Bee to support their work. It's good stuff, as I think I gave a couple of good examples to support. Joel Berry, thanks so much for joining us. Good luck with the book.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
There's only one radio show in Chicago talking about today's biggest stories and telling you what they really mean. That show is this one, Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560, The Answer.
If you're self-employed and purchase your own health insurance, I have some great news. From now until January 15th, the health insurance exchanges are open again. And even if you've never qualified for a health insurance subsidy before, you most likely will now. The American Rescue Plan, signed on March 11th, expanded subsidy eligibility to millions of Americans who have never qualified before, even to those with high income levels. And this year, you can purchase a multi-state PPO policy, which includes access to the entire Northwestern Medical Group, as well as other teaching hospitals around the nation. Employers who provide small group coverage also have new options, and so do seniors looking for Medicare supplement coverage. Call me. I can help.